Hey everyone, and welcome to Living by the Law, the podcast discussing fictional worlds and how wondrous and ridiculous they are. My name is Matt, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jude and Guy. Living by the Law is not currently sponsored. If you wish to sponsor us, go to your nearest taco shop and order every single taco on their menu. Evaluate each one, looking at hard and soft tacos alike and comparing them to each other. Pick your favorite taco and send the order to us with your sponsor message on the receipt. We will hear you. We always do.
In today's episode, we will be discussing hard and soft magic systems, as well as talking about and laughing at some of our favourite and less favourite examples of these. This episode will contain spoilers for Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Fullmetal Alchemist, The Last Airbender, Merlin, Harry Potter, and the Mistborn series. Enjoy!
Why are genies so angry, though?
What genie have you met that's angry?
Look, they've got their arms crossed all the time. They're frustrated. I mean, I get that the living situation isn't great, but you've got God... Oh, wait, no, they can only do it with other people. I get why genies are angry. Never mind, I changed my opinion.
And imagine, every time you meet someone, they're like, haha, I get 3 wishes now, and you just have to give it to them.
Having your arms crossed doesn't mean you're angry. It's comfortable. I think this is comfortable. You don't have to be angry. It also
then you're angry.
You look kind of like...
You might not realize it, Matt, but you're angry.
Chill or like either laid back or like they're wise. I think it's because they're wise and like a wise.
Listen, I've read at least 8 books about business body posture language, and I can tell you that is what they call a closed position.
What have you been reading? Is that your next episode?
I've been looking at internship positions recently, and LinkedIn is an absolute fucking shithole. I hate it so much. People write articles like, when you're in a meeting, you got to make sure that you have your arms open, because otherwise people will take your body language as closed up. It's like, I'll fucking sit how I want to, okay? If they want to judge me, they can judge me on how well I can write a code program.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's subconscious, but who the fuck thinks like about that stuff in a meeting with someone?
LinkedIn is a hellscape because everyone wants to write articles, but no one knows what they want to write articles about.
Also,
I was reading one the other day about how people are more used to Zoom meetings, so we're going to have more international workplaces. I'm like, that's not the barrier to entry, baby. The barrier to entry is language and time, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think that's a good thing, to be honest. But anyway, okay, because back to genies, back to the important topics in the world. Wouldn't you not be angry if you were trapped in a fucking... What is it, like what do they call it? A lamp. Trapped in a lamp for like
is
fucking
it a lamp?
century?
Hey, question. Why is it called a lamp?
Why is it called a lamp?
It's like a gravy jar.
That's a gravy. That's the magic gravy pourer. But like, I would be pissed
like that.
If you had godlike powers, but you could only use it if someone else like uses with them.
Yeah, but
so I mean, I guess
you've just got to surround yourself in cool people. Just go to the stoner den.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
And find like a good human with a good heart who releases you
that's
from
where you
your
find good
genie
people.
imprisonment.
Like you don't go anywhere. You just go to the stoner den. That's where you find good people.
I mean, I guess you could say that the whole magic and everything of a genie is pretty like inconsistent and a bit all over the place. There aren't many rules about it.
Oh no!
What are we talking about this week, Jude?
So like God. I think I actually did manage to tacit that quite well onto the topic today.
I'm impressed. I give it a solid 6 for that transition.
I think we found the opening bit for this episode, which is one of us comes up with the worst topic possible, and we've got to pivot into the next topic. I'll admit, last week you threw me a bit of a curveball, and I sort of just yelled at you until it changed topic, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That was a solid 3 on the transition.
Jude's higher score. Jude's average is higher than mine. Your KD's on like a 0.8 right now. You're good in there.
Yeah. So anyway, yes. Today we are discussing hard and soft magic systems and what the hell they are. So it can be not as confusing when we're talking about other fantasy things, and it's like, oh
magic?
yeah,
we're talking about magic systems.
Yeah, exactly.
Anytime someone mentions hard or soft magic systems from now on, we'll just yell. What, episode 18? Episode 18!
Yeah, episode 18. Go listen. So it's going to be a little bit... Yeah, I know, right? So it's going to be a little bit of a different structure to this one. I've got all of my information and such and a few examples. and I'm going to be mostly leading it through the loose, chaotic discussion. But Matthew and Guy have also got some examples of their own that we're going to discuss toward the end of the episode, and probably just have a shit fight with each other, because so much of this stuff is really just a matter of debating where it sits on a particular scale.
Basically, Jude set us homework, and I'm a bit pissed. I didn't know we could do that. I didn't know we could play that power card. That you could set
we
homework
literally
with.
did that with the Halloween episode.
Yeah.
That wasn't my episode. That was a general episode for everyone.
That's true, we did skip that episode.
Exactly.
I will say as well, I specifically didn't assign it to you. I said, would you guys be willing to do an episode like this? And you're like, yeah, that
you
sounds
can't
really fun,
say
Jude.
that. You
That's a
can't
good
s-
idea.
You can't say that and then be and then like that's twisting it. You know we're gonna say yes.
That's really good, Jude. I appreciate it.
I don't know, man. I'd probably just say, no, screw you, but either.
Yeah, but
So you asked us a question that you knew you would say no to.
that's a prick
Well,
move.
depends. It depends.
So Jude, what's a soft and hard for the people who have no clue about magic? What the fuck is a soft and hard magic
Well,
system?
we're gonna start a little bit more broad than that, actually.
Oh, what's magic? What's a
Yeah,
system?
literally. So,
What is what?
what is what? So, magic systems are everywhere in all fantasy and sci-fi. Your first thought when thinking of magic, probably things more like Harry Potter, or Lord of the Rings with Gandalf, or Merlin, etc. But magic systems from a writing perspective really do encompass a lot more than that. For example, if you want a really kind of left field example that makes you go, yeah, I guess you can kind of, yeah. You can take the X-Men, for example. They're mutants, they each have unique powers, and you can almost think of it like they're each individual wizards with only 1 or 2 spells in their arsenal. Some of them more so than others. I love how Matt's already pointing a gun at me. And of course, the
You're on
Force
a
in Star
fine
Wars.
line.
The Force in Star Wars is a magic system as well. Basically, any larger-than-life force that people use in a story can be defined as some form of loose magic system.
Well,
So,
we have magic in our world.
yeah.
It's called
My
technology.
editing.
Our magic system is technology.
We're all technomancers, baby. You open a Word document, you're casting a spell.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I'm not even
I
like that's
mean-
legit. I would define because most like if you look at like for fictional worlds, most fictional worlds don't have our technology, or their technology
Yeah,
is better
yeah.
than ours, and that's their magic system. Is their sci-fi.
You ever think we're the shit universe? The one where technology is the magic and there's no
Hey,
actual
you ever
magic?
think about how the fact that magic in the wrong hands is an utterly terrifying force, and actually we ended up in, might be the boring universe, but ultimately the safe universe?
Wait, have you ever thought of how that
Yeah,
technology
but,
that we
like-
have these days is terrifying in the wrong hands?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It still is, but it's less so. If my
No.
bank details get hacked, I have to make an annoying phone call. Whereas if someone in the street fucking Avada Kedavra's me, then I'm a dead body.
Yeah, but some people can just go and buy a gun or get a nuke or get a
In
bomb.
Australia? In Australia.
You can get a license.
You can get a license. It takes a lot longer. We're not in America, buddy.
Yeah, but the world's a big place, man.
Shout out to our American listeners. Hope
Yeah,
you're
we were
doing well over
checking
there.
metrics the other day. There's actual people from America who listen.
Bunch of
That's
people-
crazy,
yeah.
dude.
Shout out to you, America and Canada.
Shout out to the Americans,
shi-
Europeans, and Canada. Fuck yeah, dude.
Shout out to that one guy in Israel listening. This one guy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
cool
it's
as.
great.
Fuck yeah, dude.
I mean, he also might have listened to 10 seconds ago to screw this shit, but
Hey, we're not going to
Presumably most of the Americans did as well. They heard the accent and were like, nah, mate, this
Yeah.
No, why did I do an Australian accent?
You did more Australian.
That's what American is. You go far enough into Australia and you loop back around.
You get around. That's he's not wrong.
Yeah.
No. But like no, and shout out to the people in New Zealand and Australia who listen. Thank you.
Of course,
Nah,
of
fuck
course.
them.
of
They were
course.
going to
Yeah,
listen anyway. They were obligated to listen. We have a contract with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them. That's
so-
not publicly known.
It's a magical contract. It's soft magic system.
Very
So
soft.
we're gonna move on to what. So once you've got a magic system, you've got basically damn desk. You basically got a spectrum between hard and soft with a magic system. Soft magic systems often have a vague, undefined, or mysterious set of rules and the limitations on being used. So, for example, Gandalf, we know and see Gandalf do magical, powerful feats. But when you ask him for the specifics, even he himself is a bit unsure on exactly what he can do. Cue epic Gandalf sax, you know.
You shall not pass. Wow, that worked. Look at that.
Whereas the harder the magic system, the more specific you need to be with its rules and consequences. Whereas in a soft magic system, it's a lot more loose. So where I'm actually going to talk, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about is honestly more from a writing perspective, and it's kind of fun to discuss because you can analyze things that you enjoy reading or watching and just look at like the writing perspective. And don't get me wrong, simply because they don't have a very well written magic system does not mean that it's a badly written book or show. But sometimes you can go, that movie was really bad, that book wasn't very satisfying, did they do their magic system well? No, that was pretty badly written.
What the fuck were the rules?
Yeah, it can be quite fun to look at things from this perspective. So, where we get the actual terminology of hard and soft magic system is from Brandon Sanderson, who wrote a few essays titled The Laws of Magic, and this is what popularized the terminology of a hard or soft magic system. Brandon Sanderson is the author of the Mistborn series and the Stormlight Archive, two of like his big flagship book series. He's one of the bigger fantasy authors these days. A lot of people see him as like the modern king of fantasy, but you know, he's pretty good. He's pretty good, and he's just seen as a strong figure in fantasy writing. So we'll discuss them a bit. Because while they aren't hard and fast rules by any means, because after all, writing in any way is a form of art, so there are no rules. Generally, if you do certain things, then the writing can/will be better than if you did them in other ways. And yeah, it's just kind of fun to bear these things in mind and just go, how does that writing hold up if we look at these laws that Brandon Sanderson spoke about? So,
is the hero's journey a spell cast upon the reader?
No.
I don't think I've read
that shit
any
out
of
here.
his books. I'm just looking at them now.
Really?
I don't think I've read a single.
I don't think
Adam
I've read any of
Sanderson
his
book.
either. I don't read a lot of books nowadays, though I used to.
I'm just trying to look. I'm looking down.
That's why all my episodes are on video games.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big author when we were younger, more so. Like, all these book series came out when we were a lot younger.
I haven't even seen these.
Yeah, there you go. So, we'll talk about the first law. So, he's got 3 laws which we're going to talk about, and a little bit of excerpts as such from his essays, but obviously I'm not going to discuss the entire essays, because that's not what we're here to discuss today.
Would you say we're going to live by these laws?
Yes, we are. And we're going to judge the shit out of magic systems based on these laws.
Nice.
Yeah. So, the first law, which is it is the biggest one. An author's ability to solve conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands said magic. If characters, especially viewpoint characters, solve a problem by use of magic, the reader should be made to understand how that magic works. Otherwise, the magic can constitute a Deus Ex Machina.
You probably should explain what a Deus Ex Machina is.
Do you want to take the floor on that one then?
Deus Ex Machina is basically they're saved out of nowhere by a magical force. Like if for example they're about to die and there's spikes from the ceiling and they try everything and they've failed, and then so some random god steps in and goes, hold up.
Ho,
I'll let you go.
travelers.
Yeah, it's just like it's basically just this the
Basically,
it's the
author
author I like to describe it as it's the author solving the problem, not the characters.
They made the problem and then they solved the
plot
problem.
It's
Exactly.
plot convenience.
Yeah.
The only other thing about that what I mention is that sometimes there are Deus Ex Machinas which will be accused of being just egregious, but other ones will occasionally have a Deus Ex Machina where a god does save them, but it is sort of solved because the characters actually have a reason for that, like they befriended the god earlier or it became their
Well, that's that's when it becomes. It seems like a Deus Ex Machina.
So it can
but
be
isn't
accused
actually.
of, but arguments can be made against. So
It's not
another thing to
actually-
keep in mind: don't throw that term around. Think about it before you use it.
There are places in fiction for Deus Ex Machinas, but often they're used badly.
Basically,
Oh my
if you wanna just see a bunch of egregious Deus Ex Machina, just watch Rise of Skywalker if you haven't yet.
Oh, you're really gonna go? Let's not.
I too get this joke.
Yes, I'm sure you do.
Shut up, Star Wars. Non-nerd.
So,
Oh, I did
For
watch
ex-
that. I didn't understand.
Yeah.
it.
You actually watched that?
I saw that movie. I didn't understand it.
good old. All I'm saying is Lando and that fleet, man.
Was the guy in the chair? Who's the?
The guy in the chair. Oh,
he?
that's Ned. That's Ned in Far From Home. Oh no, Homecoming. Yeah, he's the guy in the chair.
No, the old man in the chair.
Yeah, you're talking about Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Where'd he come from?
Yeah,
the
yeah,
prequels.
Yeah, just
Don't
where did he
worry,
come
you
from?
don't want to know.
No,
Deus Ex Machina for-
honestly, guy,
For the bad
where
guys,
did he
yeah.
come from is what every single Star Wars fan said after
What?
watching that movie.
Cloning.
Yeah.
That's, I think only the Sith knew. Secret of
Yeah.
the Sith.
So, anyway, ideally,
favorite
so
Hobbit.
continuing on with Brandon Sanderson stuff, ideally the magic is explained to the reader before it is used to resolve a conflict. Much like a sword or a large sum of money, magic is a useful tool. Understanding the tools available to the character helps the reader understand the character's actions. Like I was saying before, it avoids questions like, where did he get that? Or how did he do that? For example, if the whole towards the start of the book is about you showing the character being a very god-giving individual and spending all this time trying to pray to a god and thinking it's not achieving something, but then later on in life, when they're about to die, the god steps down and, shoves them out the side of the road or whatever to keep them alive, it's like, oh, well, that prayer was for something, rather than just if they're walking along and they get saved by a god for no reason.
Keslov's
So,
gun,
Mis-
kind of similar to Keslov's gun, where if there's a gun,
Chekhov's gun.
if there's a
Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's
sorry,
gun.
Chekhov's gun. If there's a gun in the background of the scene, there's got to be used by the third act or something like that.
If there's a gun on the background in the first scene or the first act, it's going to be fired in the third act.
Yeah,
That's
that
Chekhov's
was it.
gun.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, mysterious magic, or soft magic, which has no clearly defined rules, should, in genre fantasy, not solve problems, although it may create them. Soft magic in genre fantasy is usually used to create a sense of awe and wonder, and the workings of it aren't exactly known to the reader in most instances. Brandon has also said that J.R.R. Tolkien and George R.R. Martin's use of magic, so Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, / The Hobbit, are very good examples of a soft magic system. Hard magic, on the other hand, has rules explicitly described by the author, meaning that the reader can understand the magic, so that solving problems with it doesn't seem to be mystically making everything better. Instead, it's the character's wit and experience that solves these problems. This makes magic a tool which can be used to solve problems and enhance the story. So a lot of Brandon's work uses that, and there's loads of other authors, like I say, we'll get a little bit more into some
RPGs!
examples. Yeah.
Tabletop role-playing games use them all the time.
Yeah, basically.
It's used in nearly all fiction.
I have
really.
3 fucking RPG books open right now. I will not let this go.
Let's
So
let
the
you
middle
finish.
ground is the middle ground is a situation where the reader knows some of the limits and possibilities of magic, but doesn't understand its full workings. Brandon has cited that the magic in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series is a great example of a perfect middle ground between the two, which I'll get into a lot more later. I can't see Matt right now, but I have a feeling you might be pointing a gun at me again
What? Why can't you see me?
because my zoom's minimized.
Oh, okay.
Oh, laptop.
I was
Yeah,
casting. I was casting
He
spells.
was casting
with my knife.
spells.
Okay,
I have a
okay.
knife here, and I'm casting spells.
So that's all Brandon stuff. Then some of my stuff that's based on this first law, just to add some more information. Writing, a lot of the time, I think you can all agree, writing is all about how you set problems and conflicts and how they are resolved in a way that makes for a satisfying / good story. For example, if we have no idea what Gandalf can do with his magic, and he just effortlessly solved all the problems the Fellowship ran into with flashy, unforeseen powers, it wouldn't be satisfying. It would just
Jude-
feel like Tolkien's going, oh, a wizard did it, which is why, in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf is absent for most of the major
I was
points
going to
of
say, that's
tension.
why he must die.
Yeah.
But Jude, why did they fly the rings to Mordor?
Shut up, you. That's a discussion for a different day. Actually, I already fucking described that to you anyway in one of the other
I'm
episodes.
joking. It's just an example here.
So, which is why, Lord of the Rings, Gandalf is absent for all the major points of tension. So, toward the end of Fellowship of the Ring, at the breaking of the Fellowship at Amon Hen, can the Fellowship get it together and save Frodo? No.
They failed.
But Gandalf isn't there. If he was there, they would have had a much easier time, because magic. Can Aragorn claim his destiny to rally the dead of Dunharrow? Yeah, he gets that one. But once again,
Spoiling
if
it.
you, spoiler
It
warning, dude.
also means nothing to me. I haven't seen this. What the fuck does the word mean? I don't
for
want
example-
Hey,
for
guy.
example-
Does anything mean anything to you at this point? Like, what do you know? Why are you here? Do we keep
because
you
I'm
around?
funny and I talk about weed
Do
jokes.
we keep you around just for just for video games?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, hey.
Tell me about the dead of Dunharrow.
So, for example, if Aragorn showed up with Gandalf at his side and went to the undead and said, "Hey, fight for me, I'm Isildur's heir," and then Gandalf just cast a little spell to make him do Aragorn's bidding, it'd be a bit of a, oh, okay, I guess Gandalf can just do that. Yeah.
I guess he can do that now.
Yeah. Can Frodo defeat the will of Sauron and throw the ring into the fire? All those moments, Gandalf isn't there, and he can't do wizard shenanigans to solve the problems. It comes down to other characters.
I kind of want to edit The Lord of the Rings now to make Gandalf fix every problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure.
I kind of want to edit it so Bilbo has a gun.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's been
so
done. Pretty sure
this
that's
is
done.
so this first rule is the most important rule for hard magic systems. So for Harry Potter, which once again we'll discuss further later on, which Harry Potter uses a few elements of a hard magic system, the reader gets a fairly clear understanding of the limitations and such throughout. Obviously, things get introduced as you go, and Harry Potter levels up into a level 99 wizard. But spells exist for just about anything you need. You just need someone to teach you, and you need to study it and learn them, because go figure, magic is the way conflict is solved in the story. And occasionally the cheeky trick is thrown into the mix. So like, oh, the older wand and all that sort of shenanigans.
We have time travel.
Yeah, exactly.
But at least they explain that tool before they use it.
That's
Yeah,
true.
exactly.
They
And that's the
foreshadow
thing.
it too.
Like, for example, if the Elder Wand shenanigans, it had been zero mention or zero kind of explanation about it, and then it just all of a sudden, oh, Harry was just able to defeat Voldemort. Oh, he had an OP
it's
wand. Okay.
It's still in contention how he managed how he beat Voldemort. But
Oh, of course,
we're not going into
yeah.
that now.
But the fact is, it's something that gets explained earlier on.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah. So then we'll move into the second law. Limitations are more important than power. The limitations of a magic system are more interesting than its capabilities. This is Brandon's essay stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah, what the magic can't do is more interesting than what it can. So great limitations on magic systems will do many things. They will, for example, create struggle. It'll make characters work for their goals, and if the magic system is limited, it'll make the writer and the character have to be more clever. Sanderson he kind of does, the Obama meme where he like puts a medal on himself?
Yes.
This is a little bit of Sanderson here, because he quotes a whole bunch of his own work and how it obeys the second law. So Sanderson offers his own Allomantic, which I'll get into his Allomancy magic in a little while, because it's a really good hard magic example, but he uses some medals in that. And there's telekinesis, which can be gained from this magic system. But the limitations, the character can only push or pull directly away or toward themselves, and the objects must be made of metal. This forces the characters to work harder and encourages better writing, because it's not just as simple as, telekinesis, I just rip all the ground up under your feet. They've got to position themselves carefully, they've got to do all sorts of tricky things to actually make this thing work.
You gotta make a ramp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely. An excellent match. Once again, this is still from him, so a lot of the more up itself sounding language is more from him, which, lovely guy, but you know what I mean. An excellent magic system will also create tension, as the outcome is not obvious and makes the whole scene appear more dramatic. For example, the limitation where, Superman limitation, if Superman is just fighting an enemy, it's not very intense. But if Superman's fighting an enemy with kryptonite, it becomes a lot more tense, because that is a limitation. Mm-hmm. It can also create depth in the character and the system alike. For example, a character whose power is flight. But if you impose the limitation where she can only fly when she is happy, her mood and ability to fly are both directly tied into the plot now. Weird example,
Such a good
but
example. I love that.
If
Yeah,
you add
yeah.
the limitation that they have to have their mouth closed so no bugs go in it.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they're highly allergic to bugs, and if they open their mouth and bugs get in, they're dead.
And so they go up against their greatest foe, the Tickle Man.
No, it's Spiders, man.
Spiders, man. The bugs! They're back!
I just imagine the person who has to be happy to fly. I just imagine them having in the back pocket. They'd pull out a picture of puppies just in the back pocket.
I thought you were going to talk.
This.
I thought you were going to say
yeah.
that they're like, no, my powers are fading. I've got to do a dank kush.
What? Why do you always bring in the
Mellow
wind?
out. Just get happy. Just chill out.
Oh man,
God.
that doesn't always make you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
That's what I
I
was
was-
thinking.
Again, I have never done a drug.
So limitations on what magic can do can be quite simple, but it could be as simple as they can't use it when they're tired. can only be used in the sunlight, but more complex ones are obviously more interesting to an extent. So Sanderson gives us an example from David Eddings' The Bulgariad. I mispronounced it horribly, but it's a really popular fantasy series from one of the books in it, The Will and the Word. A nearly limitless magic system with literally like nearly infinite power. You can make anything you can imagine, basically, but the magic cannot unmake or destroy.
That's
So
fun.
this limitation shapes the magic as a whole and tells the reader something of the magic's very nature. I haven't read the book series. I don't know much about it.
What if I
but
make a bunch
for
of lava?
example,
That
exactly,
destroys.
you run into the situation where suddenly the fantasy world your characters have to navigate through might look like like an open PvP Minecraft.
That's what
server.
I was literally
Nice,
thinking. I
nice.
I
You know
was
what I mean?
literally thinking
Where it's
that
just
it was
complete-
I'm on
PvP
this shit now.
Minecraft.
That was a gaming reference.
Yeah,
That was
yeah, exactly.
I'm just thinking Anarchy Minecraft server. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Anyone if you want to pick up,
2B2T,
look
the
up
oldest.
Anarchy Minecraft server, and that'll literally just show you what.
Yeah, exactly. Just shit everywhere. Anyway, so then weaknesses and costs, which kind of fit into the limitations part of it. So weaknesses and costs alike make a magic system more interesting. Weaknesses are generally harder to keep sensible, and the kryptonite example has become a staple of easy storytelling. Brandon encourages writers to make more interesting weaknesses than simply lulv power if X. Cost, on the other hand, are a great way of limiting a character and the use of magic. In the Wheel of Time series, the cost is that the user of the magic will slowly go insane. So that's
Fair.
fun.
No, I was going to
yeah.
mention this because one of the books that I have open is the Call of Cthulhu RPG. One of the fun things about that is when you're casting a spell, you usually will get a spell from a Cthulhu mythos book, which exists in the normal world. And one of the things of the continuous thing of the mythos and Call of Cthulhu is that people go insane when they learn a lot of the Cthulhu mythos like stuff. So the mythos tomes, as you're trying to learn and study these spells, more often than not, they will go insane, as you said. So it's an interesting limitation of this thing of, and also spells in the books are super limited, so they're like very powerful, but also very rare.
Are we
so you'll
giving
get like
examples
one
now?
good.
Because I always have a really good example.
I mean,
I
Jude
might-
told
I
us
might
to have
get you
books
to-
open.
I might get you to save the examples just after I've gone through the laws, just to keep
Yeah,
the
that's what I
sentence
was
and stuff
thinking. That's
together.
what I was waiting. I was holding back.
Yeah.
I just felt like it was a good moment.
No,
You
no,
mentioned
it's
insanity.
it's a good it's a good little input there.
There's been a lot of times I wanted to
but for the
interrupt
big-
Jude, but I haven't.
Yeah. So third law, moving on to the last of the three, which is sort of the most vague, but he does explain it fairly well, I think. Expand on what you already have before adding something new. A brilliant magic system for a book is less often one with 1,000 different magic powers and abilities, and is more often a magic system with relatively few powers that the author has considered in depth. Which,
That's-
I'd agree.
That's literally my
yeah.
number one rule. I know it's number 3
Yeah.
rule here, but that's my number one rule. I love it.
Oh, they aren't meant to be a 1, 2, 3 of like
Importance.
tier, but yeah.
I still I love that. I love that because it's such a key milestone of world building.
I think it is tiers though, because that's the cake. That's the base of it. That's the thickest bit.
That's it.
There's also, so he's got 3 parts of this third law: extrapolation, interconnection, and streamlining. So, extrapolation, it is important to consider the effects the magic that the magic will have on the world. If, for example, your magic can create food out of thin air, what will that cause? What will happen? How will it affect trade, politics, warfare, education, and social norms? Asking these questions and working out what effects your magic system will add depth to your world. So my favorite example of that, just to throw something in from myself here, if you think about what would happen if we had, like, let's say, RPG magic in the real world, where healing is as simple as, you're healed. There would be no such thing as doctors and nurses and all sorts of training for that. You'd go become a cleric or some shit,
That's
get
true.
paid
Yeah, I
enough.
was gonna say.
They wouldn't. Yeah. They wouldn't. Doctors wouldn't get paid anything.
Well,
Yeah,
no, but
exactly,
It's hard
exactly.
to become a
That's
higher
true.
level wizard. Depends
Oh,
on
yeah.
how the real XP system works. Because
That's
if you
true.
look at the D&D system, there's even varied ways of doing that. Like, do they have to fucking brawl? Are there fight clubs where all the good
Yeah.
hang out?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've
So,
like another
interconnection
example of that. Another example of that one, just quickly, is like how Harry Potter, they don't have technology because magic does everything that technology can do, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So why would
they-
they?
why
Why would
would-
they have?
why would they
technology?
have-
What is the function of a rubber
Of a
duck?
Yeah. So interconnection is the next part. Another important plot point to be considered is interconnection. Try to make the powers of a character seem like a coherent whole rather than separate abilities. In Mistborn, which is one of the series of his I'm going to talk about, for example, magics were designed to be what thieves would want, and then the powers are named accordingly. So, for example, the magic power that makes people bigger and stronger, they're called like pewter arms or thugs, because it all comes from the thieves and everything. They're not going to have some fancy name, you know? They're going to have a thieving name. So tying your powers together thematically is an important part of world building and expands the world rather than adding to it. And then finally, streamlining. Streamlining is also important in any magic system. Combining pre-existing magics and powers is often better than adding new ones. A different culture reacting to magic entirely differently than what has been shown so far is often far better than a culture with its new, unrelated magic system. For example, a super simple heat-generating magic may be used by different cultures in very different ways. A warlike culture might use it for assault or forging weapons, whereas a peaceful one might use the very same magic for heating and preparing food. For merchants, they might use it for making products. Nomads might use it for powering transportation, and so on, all from like the same base magic power of I can create heat. Remember, however, not to streamline too far, as that will make the single culture or character seem too packed and might decrease their plausibility if it's just too... Ugh. You get the idea.
Yeah.
So, do you wish to make any inputs before we move? Because I'm going to move specifically into what makes a hard and a soft magic system next. Did you want to make any brief introductions?
I've done my Call of Cthulhu bit.
I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but I think a very important part of a hard magic system is consistency and predictability.
Yeah, I've got a huge old paragraph on that.
You're going to go into that? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll leave it for you then.
Yeah. So, starting with hard magic systems. Hard magic systems, in a nutshell, they are, generally speaking, very strict rules. The reader has a much more clear understanding of what it is capable of. To paraphrase, a hard magic system is where the magic has clearly defined rules, consequences, cost, and limitations that govern what they can or cannot do with the magic. Hard magic really does boil down to three major things: limitation/cost, weaknesses, and predictability. So we'll start with the limitations/cost. This is where I will get into one of Brandon Sanderson's series a little bit, which is the Mistborn series, which is a very solid example of this. The way the magic works, it's called allomancy. People ingest specific types of metal, which they can then burn to gain a specific power. There are strict limitations there, but of course there is wiggle room. For example, there might, if it was needed to add more mystery, there could be some new undiscovered type of metal that no one has found that has an, so far unknown power that adds to the... It's not just as simple as, here is every metal, here is X power that it does. There can also be the added mystery to it.
Vibranium.
Yeah, exactly. Vibranium makes you OP and ignore physics.
Makes you God.
I'm God. I have cancer. How'd you get that? Uranium.
Yeah, ingested too much uranium.
You're like glowing green.
So
I'm
these...
in bed, bald, dying of cancer.
So the limitations and cost make the rules. So Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the limitations in that is physical training and how much they can do. So I can't see Matt as he shoot. Yeah,
He's shooting guns at you.
Yeah. I could just see Guy's face getting worried, and I was like, huh. But that's okay. I'll talk a little bit more about Avatar in a bit. And of course,
I'm monitoring you very carefully, Jude.
and of course, costs. So rituals, etc. Bodily exhaustion is the most common that you'll see in a lot of fantasy tropes of, the strict rule and the cost is like you get really exhausted afterward. Which it does make a lot of things easy. So, like, for example, the super powerful, experienced wizard flicks his wrist and effortlessly an army is disintegrated and he barely breaks a sweat. And then you see the novice who's, like, trying to swat a fly and fucking gets exhausted just when he kills the fly.
D&D mood.
Yeah, exactly.
I cast Firebolt.
Yeah. For example, in Harry Potter, there exist the limitations. This is, once again, looking at the parts of the hard magic system that Harry Potter draws on. There exists the limitation that the students have to study and learn the spells to solve their problems. It isn't quite as simple as Harry picks up a wand, gives it a wave, and does the exact magic power he was after.
Yeah, it's called training.
Yeah, exactly.
Get good,
exactly.
kid. Go to school.
Exactly. Although I say that, I will actually put a quick interjection in on the note of Harry Potter. A lot of the stuff that we've kind of got to base Harry Potter off of got a little bit changed when the end of the last Fantastic Beasts movie, when that dude just picked up a wand and went and cast like a really powerful spell. Anyway,
That's not canon. We're not counting those. Fuck off.
yeah, exactly.
Fantastic Beasts isn't real.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that bad because there was the same. He's a very powerful wizard. It's kind of the same thing as Harry picking up a wand in Ollivanders and exploding the shoebox. So
it's a bit.
And he's
he like blew up the side of a mountain.
But Obscurus, but he's an Obscurus.
Yeah.
That's why he has that much power.
But
it's not that bad.
It was just a bit of a change of focus from a lot of it beforehand was really focused on the study and training level of it, whereas there's almost introducing a bit more of the natural ability. But that's a whole other discussion.
Those movies definitely softened up the magic system a lot.
Yeah. So we'll move specifically into Allomancy, which I'm going to use to discuss the limitations and cost of a hard magic system. So Allomancy is one of 3 magic systems in the Mistborn fantasy novel series by Brandon Sanderson, and it is the most prominently used. People capable of Allomancy are known as Allomancers. Allomancers have the ability to burn or use metals in order to fuel a variety of physical and mental enhancements and abilities. For an additional burst of power, they may flare or burn their metal especially quickly, consuming it at an accelerated rate, but gaining greater benefits in return. So, for example, they'll have a little jar of tin, they will ingest the tin, and then they have that much tin inside them, which they are then able to burn.
Is this like in chemistry class when we burn the metals and they can change the flame to different colors?
Sure. Let's go with yes. No.
Get away. Get out of here. Why do we keep you around?
So yes, they can get greater benefits if they burn it quicker. A person who can only burn one metal is known as a misting. If a person is born with the ability to burn more than one metal, they can burn all of the metals. So it's either one or all of them. There's no, I can only burn 3 of them. And if they can burn all of them, they are known as Mistborn. Nice. Some examples include pewter and tin. People that can burn pewter are called pewter arms or thugs. When they burn pewter, they can perform physical labour much better and for much longer than normal people, and they basically have drastically better physical strength and endurance. Tin, on the other hand, they are referred to as tin eyes, as the tin in this world greatly improves vision and the other senses, and as such, people that burn tin are often used as scouts in the world.
That's actually really interesting. I really like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'll just go point it. When I first heard it, I thought you said burn Peter and Tim, and I'm like, what did Peter and Tim do?
Alloy. Yeah. So, next, after that's the limitations and cost, I'm actually going to move into predictability next.
Ooh, okay.
So, hard magic needs a level of predictability. If person with wand does X, Y will happen. Doesn't mean the magic can't act in unpredictable ways, but as we'll get into, the magic acting in unpredictable ways in a fully correct hard magic system would be coming from the characters not understanding the magic fully more than the magic acting weird. So a good example of another hard magic system is Full Metal Alchemist, which is a manga/anime. I'm pretty sure it's also a manga. It probably is. I don't know that much.
It definitely
cool.
is.
Yeah, I was assuming, but
it's like
most animes are also.
Yeah, it's like 99% sure.
Yeah, exactly. There's very few that aren't, but so the magic system in that is the law of equivalent exchange or alchemy, and it's I think I watched like one episode of this a few years ago, so I don't actually know that much about Full Metal Alchemist, but I'm pretty sure it's like a thing that flashes at the start of every episode, a quote, "It is impossible to create something out of nothing. If one wishes to obtain something of equal value must be given. This is the law of equivalent exchange." And that's like the entire basis of their magic system.
Yeah,
that's why sacrifice
exchange.
It's why sacrifice is a big theme in the show.
Yeah. For example, one of the characters takes a broken radio and turns it into a fixed radio. All the pieces are there, nothing was created, and it was very predictable in that sense, and the viewer can usually see when the characters are doing great, or the viewer can go, oh no, oh fuck, when they see it going badly. For example, if they see the character doing a thing which you know from your knowledge of the magic system is not quite how it works, you can think, oh god, this is about to go horribly wrong, and then you can watch it.
You forgot the vibranium.
Exactly. I assume vibranium is not a thing, but I never know.
Who knows?
Hey,
But
we can't
to talk
say no.
about, but to discuss, so obviously predictability is very, very, very important in hard magic. There is also, you can have unpredictability, because you don't think that just because it's a hard magic system means it will always work the exact way. So there is a huge thing of unpredictability in Full Metal Alchemist, where they attempt to bring back their dead mother, like before. Isn't it like a thing that's happened technically before the show, and it's when they were kids
it's basically
or whatever?
the start of the show.
Yeah. And they put all the alchemical things that make a person into the casting, but it doesn't work, as life is a little bit more complicated than that. But this unpredictability came from the fact that the casters did not understand the magic, whereas if they were more experienced, as they would later become, they actually get the understanding of why it isn't quite how it works. And obviously there's the whole thing where, like, the brother basically gets his entire body destroyed because it's trying to... Yeah, that I don't want to get too much into that.
There are
but,
consequences of breaking the hard magic system and not going...
Exactly.
100%. Sorry, I'm crying. Matt's making a sandwich.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just talking a lot
Jude
and
was
I'm
doing
hungry.
his explanation, and Matt was just up to the side arranging pieces of fucking bread. He showed us a head of lettuce before we started recording. I thought it was the weirdest thing ever, and now I understand the true scale of his machinations.
I get hungry in the episode. And if it's not my episode, I'm not talking a lot. I'm letting Jude talk.
Why couldn't you make the sandwich before the recording?
I did. I already ate that one.
Okay, I'm just gonna move on. So Matt's too busy making a sandwich to get mad. So, final example of how predictability really makes a hard magic system. We will look briefly at Avatar: The Last Airbender.
You underestimate my power.
So the bending system is relatively hard. It isn't very mysterious, with the exception of the occasional new bending style being thrown in. For example, it is, supposedly, I've not seen the show, LMAO, established many times that water can be bent from a variety of sources, and it doesn't just have to be water from a river. It's been bent by people using blood, from trees, etc., all that sort of thing. Basically, if it contains water, they can do some form of bending with it.
Yeah,
there's scenes I've seen where there's the wizened old waterbender who swirls her hand and, like, rips all the water from the foliage around her, shit like that.
from the flowers, yeah.
Yeah,
And there's also definitely a little bit of a thing where they categorize people who have those sort of extra knowledge of how to bend water.
Exactly.
Yeah, waters are very, like, diverse. You can always you can control in, like, plants and people.
It's almost like it's a flexible thing, like water, how it
Yeah,
flows and shit.
it's a flexible body.
Not quite done with the Avatar thing. So yeah, it's going back up. Get that gun out of here, man. So this is playing into the predictability part of it, because they've set up all the ways that waterbending can act. When one of the characters escapes prison by bending their body sweat, it is perhaps a surprise in a sense, but it's something the viewer could have easily figured out on their own just by watching the show and slowly putting it together and going, that could be a thing they could try. And then they get to see the character do it, and it's like, hey, that's cool.
It doesn't break any of the rules, and it's a natural extension.
Yeah,
which makes
exactly.
When you see the scene, it's a great scene.
Yeah.
It's, like, so cool. It's also like if you cry, you can use your tears to kill people. It's, like, fucking crazy. I don't think they ever do that, but that's great. I like that kind of thing. So you can also turn into ice, so you can turn the little ice picks.
Yeah. I'll just be 1 sec. Work's just calling me.
Gamer.
Just don't stop recording. I'll just edit it
No,
out.
it's all right. We're all. Oh, I mean, we can.
We'll just keep talking. So you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, haven't you guys?
No, I have seen like 4 episodes of it.
How do you? Okay. I should never just ask. I should assume he hasn't seen something, and when he has seen,
I don't
guy-
watch. When people want me to watch things, I refuse to watch them. Do you know
when
what
guy
I'm-
has seen something, I should be
The
surprised.
only thing that I have acquiesced and I'm currently watching is Merlin, and I want to bring that up at some point because I can't tell whether it's a hard or a soft magic system.
The thing about Merlin is, it's the. Like, are you talking about just the TV show?
Yeah, the TV show. Well, I wouldn't
Okay.
I'm not reading the books. When have I ever read a book?
Well, the thing is, Merlin is an actual myth, an actual tale. So, like, you'd have to be careful with that, because, like, there's actual tales of Merlin in our real history. So, you'd have to, like, make sure you're just talking about one system. But yeah, no, but it's annoying. But you've seen Full Metal Alchemist, though, right?
No, I've seen like 2 episodes of it, but Matthew, I look at memes on the
I never
internet,
finished it.
and
I watched it with a mate.
I
never finished
look
it.
at memes on the internet, and my body just absorbs the ideas of the show. When people start talking about character names and shit, I'm like, I have no idea. But when they're like, ooh, when the chiropractor hits you just right and then posts a thing of Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm like, I know what that's about.
That's rough, buddy. That's rough.
So, anyway, I will continue on. So, weaknesses, the final part of a hard magic system. Weaknesses are huge. Of course, kryptonite is the classic example of the magic, quotation marks, having a weakness. So this whole thing of weakness is fairly self-explanatory, but I will add a little bit how it can be a bit more interesting than simply, oh, the magic doesn't work because they are standing inside a copper silo, which is their weakness. Isn't that Megamind? I think that's where I was getting that reference from.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's
yeah.
he blasts him inside a fucking the silo, and he's like, "This is lined with what the fuck."
It's a fake weakness, but I fucking
Yeah,
Megamind is so good. It's underappreciated. Fucking love that.
Yeah,
It's a really good example of a soft magic. I have no idea.
That's really
so-
not just a good story.
Werewolves, for example, is a way you can make it a bit more interesting than simply kryptonite. So depending on how werewolves are implemented into your story, maybe the protagonist is hugely more powerful as a werewolf and they've got all these new abilities, magical powers and stuff, but suddenly they have to be super scared of silver bullets because if they get touched by a silver bullet, they get instantly killed. That's
And
weakness
there's
of the magic.
vampires, sunlight, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So that's always making it a bit more. That's a slightly more interesting thing about weaknesses in a magic system than simply, they've got kryptonite. You're not able to function. Haha.
There was a guy in Skullduggery Pleasant basically who had extreme fire powers, but he when he touched water, he like dies.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
So moving into soft magic now. So the defining trait of soft magic, they are less understood by the reader in what it is capable of doing. Misconception to quickly slam though, soft magic systems definitely have rules. It's a little bit of a misconception you see floating around that, hard magic has rules and soft just doesn't have any rules. And it's like, yeah, but nah. The rules of a soft magic system are established by what you show the characters doing. Once a character does a thing, it is now a rule that the magic can do that in the world. Which is how a lot of people, and you got to bear in mind, soft magic, it gets implemented badly a lot of the time. And once again, if we go back to Brandon Sanderson's Laws of Magic, the best way to think about soft magic is less about being conflict and tension and resolution, and more about how it enriches the narrative and the world building and adds mystery to it and all that sort of thing. That is much more the distinguishing feature of soft magic system. So Lord of the Rings is the classic example of a soft magic system. It is all about mystery and adding to the narrative of the world of Middle-earth. And the same goes for Merlin, the good old BBC show. The magic in that is completely limitless. It is such a soft magic system.
I was gonna say
That-
this, yes.
Yeah, but it is just, completely adds to the whole, well, go figure, the entire show is about Merlin doing crazy spells and stuff. But I'll get into Merlin in a little bit.
And also, just as another note, they do, when they show something happening, that becomes a rule. Like, he can unlock stuff and push people away and heat stuff up and, like, a couple of other things. And, like,
Yeah, exactly,
They
yeah.
show those as consistent skills. There's occasional boosts and some cool random shit he can do, but there's the rules, again. So a good soft magic system.
Yeah.
I have not
so-
seen Merlin, so I can't comment on this one.
No, that's fair. So things to consider with soft magic systems, and which I'll talk about them both individually. Tension, point of view, and unpredictability. The biggest struggle you'll see with a lot of writing that uses soft magic systems comes back to Sanderson's first law about how well the reader understands the magic. It is very difficult to write meaningful points of tension and conflict into a narrative based purely around the magic when the reader doesn't actually know much about the magic. It can be very hard not to run into situations just feeling like a Deus Ex Machina. So how do you get around a soft magic system? How do you use a soft magic system and get around this issue? Well, there's sort of, at least from my perspective, there are two ways that authors and script writers, whatever you want to say, get around this issue. We'll start with Harry Potter and how they use a soft magic system to get around the whole tension and conflict.
Yeah.
So, way number one, as I will call it. So, the first way that people make tension and soft magic work is that while anything may be possible within the soft magic system, any individual may only have access to a certain set of powers. Harry Potter uses this direction. It is, basically, a soft magic system dressed up with some hard attributes to make it seem like a bit more of a hard magic system. Anything is possible. We see very few times that magic simply cannot do a thing. Kill someone, there's a spell for that. Torture someone, there's a spell for that. Disarm someone, there's a spell for that. Repel muggles, spell for that. Look like someone else, spell or a potion for that, maybe.
Potion.
Well, mainly
A
the
delicious,
tasty
tasty potion.
And hell, J.K. Rowling often simply introduces a new spell when the story needs it. Scary demon monster? Fear not, we have happy spirit animal spell to repel them with now. You get the idea. But they apply the limitation of individual strengths/abilities. Harry's limited to what he has studied and trained with throughout the books, and so are any other wizards or witch. And that is how the tension is built up and maintained. When the soft magic just magically solves a thing, we as the reader understand the process that Harry had to go through learning it. Basically, this is balancing aspects of hard and soft magic without it being too limiting for the storyteller, which maintains the sense of mystery and possibility while also having the limitations to not just feel like, oh, a wizard did it. Because even though a wizard did do it, you understand why the wizard did it. And then way number 2 is simply put, in my opinion, the avoidance strategy. So in Lord of the Rings, as I mentioned before, they solve the issue of soft magic being present and conflict and tension by basically just avoiding the two. Every Gandalf has his magic, but he simply isn't there or isn't able to be of service at the moments when it's needed. So as I was saying with Aragorn, actually, I think I actually said that almost word for word later. But yeah, if Gandalf was with Aragorn when he needed to enlist the help of the dead, and Gandalf just stepped forward and said, "Fear not, mortals, I've got this," and uttered some deep elvish word to them, binding them to Aragorn's service, it just kind of a big Deus Ex Machina moment, and it's like, oh, cool, that's that problem solved.
Yeah.
Instead,
mentioned this earlier.
Instead, Gandalf is busy helping out in Gondor, and he isn't able to come and do anything, and it's all down to Aragorn. Merlin also fits this category very nicely. So during the show, there are very few moments from episode to episode where the tension/conflict is based on the question of, can Merlin cast a spell powerful enough to fix it? Because the answer is always yes. He can. It's basically limitless. 99. Well, you get the odd episode
End
where
of
it's after
season
saving
2
Merlin,
where he's
but
trying to train the dragons 1 point.
yeah, but even then, he gets the help from the
He
dragon
does
stuff.
get that. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, Merlin basically is just he's pretty OP in the world, and that's okay because it's a fun show and we love it. And it's they counteract it because the conflict and tension, for the most part, comes from whether or not Merlin can get Arthur to trust him over other people, whether or not Merlin can sway Arthur's extreme views of magic users, and the main one, if Merlin can get away with casting the spell without being caught/revealed and then executed as a spellcaster.
Yeah,
because
all
the
I
big thing
know
of the
is
show,
that Merlin hides from Arthur. That's
yeah,
all. And they're gay.
because the big thing of the show is that magic is outlawed in the world, which is where they
okay.
get the tension from.
That's all.
'Cause,
That's the only 2 things I know.
yeah, if magic wasn't outlawed in the world, it'd probably still be hilarious to watch, but like there wouldn't be much conflict or tension because Merlin could just step forward and disarm every single situation they get into, pretty much.
It is really funny, though, how many situation he gets into, and he's like, I guess I'll just have to cast magic carefully. It's like,
Yep.
wow, incredible.
Who would have
Good
thought
job,
that?
you fucking idiot. Because there's also another episode where he's just chilling on a hill, and he's like, I'm going to make this smoke into a horse, and he nearly gets fucking executed because of it. It's like,
Yep.
you know the solution to this problem. You just seem to refuse to want to use it.
Yep. And yeah, exactly. That's how
Interesting.
they build that thing. So moving on. The importance of understanding, which just before we move into the next big point of view. So another soft magic system that comes to mind for me is Stranger Things, the Netflix show, which I assume people have seen. Well, I know you two have seen, but I assume a lot of other people have seen. Let me ask you, what can Eleven do roughly with her mind powers?
I've only seen season 1. Also, how
Guy,
many things are we gonna
what
spoil
can
in this?
Eleven do?
Basically, it boils down to telekinesis, which is just pushing and pulling things. There are occasional moments where she does some other, like, little shit, but, like, nothing that's anything super useful. It's usually just,
Yeah,
like...
exactly. it's usually some form of telekinesis and stuff, making someone freeze, for
And
example.
it's very limited.
Yeah.
She gets tired very easily.
Yeah. We see the huge limitations of her doing all sorts of things and exerting huge amounts of exhaustion on her, the nosebleed, all that sort of thing. So that makes her work as not the protagonist, of course, but like one of the major characters. Whereas if we look at the Mind Flayer, who is the big antagonist of Season 2, we know absolutely nothing about his powers. And that's fine, because he's the one causing the issues and being maniacal and scary, not the one solving it, so we don't need to understand his abilities to be for it to be a justified resolution.
The evil people are allowed to break the rules. That's how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Provided
exactly.
the heroes have justified strengths and the enemies have justified weaknesses, it usually can work itself out.
Yeah.
Because the end result is enemy loses from weakness, hero wins from strength. So those things got to be good. Those
are the key bits. It is
Those
also
are the key.
very, very important to make the hero weaknesses strong, but not as important as making sure their powers aren't just like, haha.
Yeah,
I will also add on here just before, because otherwise I don't think I bring up Lord of the Rings much more. I will quickly add on to Lord of the Rings magic for anyone that is a Silmarillion nerd.
oh god.
Technically, if you really look into the Silmarillion and stuff, the magic of Lord of the Rings becomes a lot more hard than soft. But that's not important, because we're focusing on the story of Lord of the Rings, in which it is a soft magic system. Because the ongoing joke is that Tolkien created like 6 different hard magic systems, but refused to give anyone the rules for it, so it's a soft system. Because Tolkien.
Nobody knows but me.
Yeah, exactly. So, moving on to the next big point. Point of view. Yeah, I didn't. What was it wrong?
Nobody's smart for me. It's from Shrek 4, the final chapter. Rumpelstiltskin says it.
Oh, true.
Nobody's smart for me. I love that movie.
I love Rumpelstiltskin.
He's so good.
No, I was about to say his magic system's really good.
Yeah, you sign up to the contract.
You just write contracts.
Yeah,
The weakness
He's
is
the
you have to
purity.
get them to sign it, and it says what
Yeah, exactly. That's such
Terms
a
and
good system.
conditions.
I love that.
Yeah. No, that's good.
They have to sign
So-
up of their own free will. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll move on to the point of view, which is the next big one of the 3 points of soft magic systems. Generally speaking, if you're wanting to write from the perspective of a magic user, soft magic may not be the best way to go, as it becomes very difficult to have that mystery of the soft magic. For example, The Hobbit is a brilliant example of a book using constant soft magic, but explored through the eyes of someone who is pretty much completely clueless. Which, go. Bilbo. Because it is all through his eyes, the reader can share in Bilbo's lack of understanding and sense of wonder at Gandalf, at Mirkwood, and the elves, and the racist peoples in the forest, etc.
classics.
I love
Yes.
the magic of racism.
Whereas, if it were from Gandalf's perspective, it would be much harder to write with that. And it would make a lot less sense to have the mystery, because Gandalf would know everything about Mirkwood. Gandalf would know about the shitty elves and Mirkwood and everything. So you
just hear
can't
his
really
thoughts.
have... Yeah, exactly. And it also wouldn't make
He'd be
sense to be... Where from Bilbo's perspective, it can be Gandalf mysteriously arriving and making a big flash from his staff to, briefly for a split second distract the goblins. Whereas if it's from Gandalf's perspective, it's, yes, I will use my magic to do this precise thing. And it's just like, well, this isn't really a soft magic system anymore.
It's why the not only is the world very important around a hard-on soft magic system, but also the character, the point of view is very important as well.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
I think, yeah. Sorry, as the author. Yeah, no. I think the author.
That's my point.
The author, I don't know if you've heard of her, but Trudy Canavan is really good at perspectives, I find. She switches between a lot of perspectives in her books, and she's like, I think the smallest one is one where it has 2 perspectives in a book, and like they're really good, and they'll switch between perspective in chapters, and it's actually really the way she does it and the way she builds magic systems through the perspective of different characters who are at different levels of intelligence and knowledge. It's really well built in that kind of sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I getcha. You can almost... I haven't actually seen I don't know enough about the world to comment too much on the specifics of it, but it's almost similar to those of you that have seen The Witcher show on Netflix, how they use a lot of different perspectives.
Hey, that's a
with...
game guy. You should know that.
Yeah,
No,
you should.
I haven't played it. I'm not into fantasy RPGs. Actually, Skyrim I do. And ESO. I guess
I was gonna say. I was gonna say.
Hey, shut
I
up.
mean,
I'll get to it eventually.
I'd
I got a long
also.
list. I'm playing Steven's sausage roll right
Witcher
now. I got
3
some
is
shit
so
to do.
far.
Is Link not fantasy? Sorry, Zelda. Wait, Zelda.
I wouldn't call it an RPG. Oh, I guess it's an RPG, but they're
It's an
totally
RPG.
different.
It's an adventure
Yeah.
RPG.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're totally different.
Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, I was going to say as well with The Witcher how that uses different perspectives of characters that have different forms of magic, which, like I say, I don't know much about The Witcher world to comment too much on it, but I know that the good old Geralt, Henry Cavill's role is using Witcher magic, which is different to the spells and stuff of the other people who are like
Yes.
using more blood magic. And there's lots of different magic systems at use, and
There
you
are.
get to see them developed throughout the different perspectives, which, yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is the Witch is a really interesting one because it does
Yeah,
have quite
yeah.
a different few magic systems, and how
Yeah.
how it's like a normal medieval world interacts with magic is really cool.
Yeah.
Have to do an episode
So anyway,
on
sorry.
that. Have to do an episode on that one.
Yeah. Well, we'll give it to Guy because it's a game, but
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah, guy.
What?
Um,
No, I was thinking
Wasn't
about
it technically
the book
a
I was
book
gonna
before
do
it was a
next.
game, or was it a game before it was a book?
Oh, you're asking the wrong guy.
I don't know. Oh, and guys walked off on us.
Who?
He's going to get something. I feel like.
Yeah.
Oh, you might be able to hear him in the background.
I hope so.
And he's on his way back.
And his headphones are on. And he's sitting down.
What did you bring to us, guy? He's got something.
I've got a book called Shadow Black. It's one where they use cards and stuff like that with magic, and they also use gunpowder a lot. There's like it's like little magic, but they have a whole bunch of tools to
Yu-Gi-Oh.
assist them with it.
There you go.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
No. So it's like they have little tools that they have a whole bunch of assistance with, and then there's also different magic systems in there. One of them is literally just a card wizard. It's been a while since I've read the book. That might be incorrect, but that's how I remember it. I just couldn't
Nice.
remember the title of it. So
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Shadow Black.
So we'll move on to the last part of soft magic systems, which is unpredictability. Soft magic can really lean into unpredictability, which is kind of one of the fun parts about it. Melisandre in Game of Thrones is a great example of this. She is a perspective character who makes use of soft magic with the Lord of Light, which, if y'all remember the Game of Thrones episode, we briefly mentioned the Lord of Light's one of the religions. But they George R. R. Martin makes it work as her being a perspective character with soft magic by really playing into the sense of mystery, as she herself as a character doesn't actually know all that much about her magic and how it works at all, really. She performs rituals that she thinks will do a thing or please the Lord or whatever, but a lot of the time nothing actually happens, but
Sounds
every
like
so often...
Christianity.
Yeah.
We don't bully religions on this show.
Yeah, let's get that shit out of him out.
As a Christian, I'm allowed to say that, okay?
That's
I'm not a Christian.
you are the loosest description of a Christian I've ever seen.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. That's a good point.
Yeah, careful, buddy. But every so often, however, something big does happen. For example, go figure, she brings someone back from the dead at one point, which, whoa, crazy. And that is a whole other thing on like the limitations and the cost of bringing people back, but that's a different discussion.
So wild.
Yeah, but then if it is one of those things where it's like you couldn't really call her a really good spellcaster or magic user, because if you look at all the times she failed epically with spells, the one time she did do something crazy is like, okay, cool. So yeah, and when she actually does succeed occasionally, is almost as surprised as the reader in some ways, because she's visibly like, that worked? What? And you can take the sense of unpredictability from the character and also look at when it occurs in Harry Potter. So in the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone for those American viewers.
No, it's the Philosopher's Stone. You're wrong.
Oh, I agree.
I
but
think it's
called
the
a different name in a
Gamer's
different country.
Stone.
Yeah. He touches the Professor / Voldemort and literally makes him disintegrate. You guys have seen it. We've all seen it. We've all read it.
Well,
What's he doing there?
He doesn't disintegrate in the books.
Yeah.
He
But
gets
anyway,
burned.
I'm using...
He gets third-degree
Yeah.
burns and dies because Voldemort's soul leaves him. He doesn't die because of his burns. He just He's like physically like, and it's like scalding hot when Harry touches them.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
doesn't turn to dust like in the book. Harry doesn't kill someone. Okay? Like that's so, that
but-
always fucking amazes me. Sorry, I'll get into it. But it's-
Yeah.
We can't. We
Harry
can have
kills
we can,
someone
hey,
in this
one
first
day.
year.
One day we can have an episode where we gripe about the differences between books and movies in different TV shows. We will have a series of these. We'll almost be able to make another podcast out of
shit,
them.
not a
but that's okay.
podcast.
That'd be great. But anyway, we don't really understand as the reader what's going on when he's burning him or disintegrating him, whichever one you want to look at. It's mysterious, but Harry, Voldemort, everyone involved in the situation is also visibly confused by it. When you're watching the movie, the Professor and Voldemort are like, oh, what the heck, what's going on? Why am I turning to dust? Harry's like, what the hell? How am I killing this person? It's
Murder!
The reader yeah, exactly. The reader shares in that whole perspective of confusion and what the heck is going on? How can this magic happen? What is going on? And another really
Of course,
good
Dumbledore
thing
loves-
of
Dumbledore knows.
unpredictability in soft magic, there is a fantasy series called the Deathgate series, which uses a soft magic system, and I think you'll like this feature a lot of it, Matt. One of the unpredictable things. There's forms of really powerful necromancy in the world, where, go figure, you can bring people back from the dead. And the thing that's really interesting with it, because necromancy is basically the whole thing of the Deathgate series, the more powerful the magic, the more loose, uncontrollable, and unpredictable it is. And with necromancy being one of the higher tier levels of magic, whenever you bring someone back from the dead, someone else is killed completely randomly.
I've heard of this. This is
Yeah, it's a really cool concept, and I do not know for sure.
A random person dies in the world or something like that. 'cause
Yeah,
you
I
can't-
would assume that person that then randomly died can't be brought back without killing the other person again, but I don't know
Well,
the
I think
series
it's
well
like you
enough to
could
say.
bring them back to life, but like I obviously haven't read the book. But like if you brought them back to life again, someone else randomly would die. So it's that kind of thing. Whereas you can't replace a life without giving a life.
Yeah, exactly. Almost equivalent exchange again.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just the whole thing of like it being
a
so
soul for
random
a
and
soul.
unpredictable. Yeah, because go figure, if it was purely based off of, okay, I have to kill someone to bring someone back, it's a different tone entirely, because it's, you get a prisoner or like a murderer or someone that you don't care about, and then use them to bring back your loved one. Whereas if bringing back your loved one might mean that one of your other loved one dies, it's that situation of like, can I do this?
Or yeah, would you sacrifice some random person
Yeah, exactly.
to death for your selfish needs?
And then on this unpredictable thing, so final point on this, huge difference between the two hard and soft magic system. Hard magic is liable to go wrong because the practitioner didn't understand the magic properly, whereas soft magic may go wrong more so because that is just the nature of the magic itself. And that is really kind of one of the big differences between the two.
It just does what it wants.
Exactly. I think, I can't think of the name of the series, but there's a few series out there that have got, I think it might be one of Patrick Rolfus's series. Don't quote me on that, but I think because he has a book series which has both a hard and a soft magic system in the same world, and the soft magic system, the magic is really like almost a sentient being, like levels of unpredictable and stuff, which is really interesting. But
yeah, often in some words, it's usually either a god is doing it and they decide what happens, or it's nature. Like magic itself has a character, and so magic kind of does what it wants at this point. Does it want to help you?
exactly.
Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't.
Exactly. So final closing point before I open the floor to you two. Hard magic, in my opinion, is more about. Oh, let me try that again.
Somebody needs some
hard
voice
magic.
juice.
Yeah, I do need some voice juice.
Get
Take
it in
that
you.
vo-
Get it in
yeah,
you. Chug,
look at-
chug, chug.
Look at him juice up with that voice.
Oh, he's so juiced. Oh, listen to this.
Yeah.
So smooth tones. Go for it, G. Oh, he's getting more juice.
Ooh, he's got juiced. He might overjuice at this point. He's gonna overjuice.
Dude, this is gonna be so good.
It's gonna be so smooth. I'm gonna like.
It's gonna be
collapse.
so juicy. Okay.
Hard magic, in my opinion, is more about how well an author designs the limitations, cost, and weaknesses, and how this can be cleverly used by the characters to solve problems. While soft magic is less about solving problems and more about adding narrative by opening up its possibilities and world-building opportunities.
To be honest, half those words I just couldn't even understand because
Oh
the voice
man,
was just so good.
I was in Cloud 9. That's not what you say.
Cloud 9? You're in Cloud 9. On Cloud
Cloud
9.
9's in me. I ate it.
I hate it. Cloud 9. It's so small.
Is Cloud 9 not a restaurant?
It's a club. in
No, I
Melbourne.
know what it is, but
Yeah.
it's
there's also additionally, Jude,
It's a hair straightener.
with a soft voice like that, why did the British need guns to take over the world? With their voices. The British.
Their
just-
voice-
I
Voices in
could
their
talk about a
comedy.
lot of historical things, but I'm not gonna.
Anyway, do you want us to comment?
Yeah, go right ahead. Bring up some of your things if you wish.
I had pretty much similar to you, to be honest. Okay. I do enjoy soft magic systems. I have to say that before I go into it. But
That's a fun butt.
oh, you have a fun butt, guy.
I do.
You do. I love hard magic systems. I am a big stan of the hard magic system. I'm a stan, and I will stand by them. Because hard magic systems make things make so much more sense. It also just it allows you to be able to brainstorm and theorize about the world, and I just fucking love that. Avatar: Last Airbender. I've got some great examples here. So I'll talk about Avatar: Last Airbender, basically, how the bending system works. So there's a couple straight rules before I get into it. Basically, you can't bend. You can only bend one of the 4 elements, unless you're the Avatar. You can't make your element out of nothing. You need the material, unless you're the firebenders, because firebenders are cool.
I mean,
and you-
firebenders have what they need. It's just oxygen and fuel.
Yeah, well, they just need they can like just you can punch as a firebender and flame will come out of your fist.
Yeah, it's your fist is the fuel and the air's around you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's in that sense. So basically, those are the basic 2 rules, and how Avatar: Last Airbender works is the more usually how they bend is use basically martial arts to bend, and each bending system has a different style of martial arts, right? And like water is a flow martial art. I don't know the names of them, but the more flow, earth is very much stay in your position and you're like holding your ground in that kind of sense. Is earth bending, you're holding your ground and being aggressive, that kind of sense. Firebending is very aggressive. That's kind of sense of like punch, kick, get in there. Very much action, getting moving as fast as possible, like because kinetic energy, that kind of sense, getting in. And airbending is all about avoiding and trying to get out of it. And there's all those. And the thing about I love that Last Airbender is that all those kind of work together, and they make a system which has pretty hard set rules in that sense.
Waterbenders use Tai Chi, Earthbenders use Kung Fu, Firebenders use Northern Shaolin Kung Fu, and Airbenders use, I'm gonna fuck this up, Bagua Hang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically,
Yeah,
and
I was
then,
gonna say I knew there was a correlation between.
So
yeah.
it's on the very basis level is you can move your element, right? And that goes into many systems. For, like we went into it before, waterbenders can change. So you can change water is water, steam is water, ice is water. You can change between them. You can use whatever, and you can manipulate water in that sense.
Is steam not a combo of water and air?
Well, no, it's the water in there. You can like change water to steam and stuff like that.
Can an airbender control water?
Well, they control the air, not. It's they don't really they try not to get in those kind of like gray.
I'm just intrigued. I'm just asking.
I do agree. It's kind of those in those sense like they try not to try and get in between. But like, waterbenders can move the water in plants, move your blood, move your sweat. That's all the sense because it's all water. Sense. Firebenders do a very similar thing. Firebenders Firebenders very much explosion. So there's a few things they don't explain, like Sparky Boom Man. I think they don't explain. That's an actual character. I'm not even joking. Sparky Boom Man is a character in Avatar. Look up Sparky Boom Man. You'll see him.
Sparky
I think I
Boom
explain
Man.
it more in Korra, but I haven't seen that episode yet. I'm still catching up. But
Combustion Man.
Combustion Man. That's also another name for him. It's another way of using firebending. And there's also like it's more of like an explosion-based firebending, which is just another step. And there's also lava bending, which is really fucking cool. It's like just cool extension. Additionally, firebenders can do lightning. And
Okay.
in the Legend of Korra, they use lightning benders to be able to generate electricity.
Guess
And
it's just a form
and that's
of
what sense
plasma,
what
that
you were
makes
saying,
sense.
Jude. Jude was saying about building into your world and how that would work. In that sense, they work. There's also benders in like plantation plants where they purify material, and each different station you have a different type of bender who would do the different job. So that's how and it's like using that in you're ingraining into the world, which makes a lot of sense in that kind of sense. Additionally, we'll quickly go earthbending. They can bend metal. They realize Toph is when the character actually invents metal bending in the show because she sees the impurities in the metal and able to. Cause they originally use metal because they can't. You put them in a metal cage, they can't bend that. You're trapped, right? But she learns how to bend it through the little impurities in the metal, which is really cool.
The little bits of stone and earth.
Exactly.
That's fun.
And then you have airbending. There's not much to really do everything, but one really cool thing is you can suffocate people by draining all the air out of their lungs.
Hey, that's kind of brutal.
Yeah, it's a brutal technique, but it's really cool and it works in that sense. Like, yeah, you don't think of it, but when they present it to you, you're like, that just makes sense.
Could you not do the same thing with a pair of billows and some duct tape?
Maybe, but it's not a lot less cool. Yeah, so I personally really like a sort of system that sacrifices stuff and has that kind of stuff. The reason that and Avatar doesn't have a lot of costs in what you're talking about in hard magic systems. It works on because they just get tired and they have to train. The reason there's a lot of limitations on how they can bend and stuff like that. You can't bend other elements. You have to be very well trained, stuff like that. It kind of builds in more to the story based and. They don't really need the cost other than getting tired after using a lot of their bending ability, and you kind of run out of it at the very end. It's like you get physically tired as you're using the martial art, right? Yeah. It's that sort of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Another example I really like about like cost and stuff like that. So limitations more important than powers. I've got that written down, but I've got a few examples like limitations, weaknesses, and costs for things. For example, I really like the sense of it. I know you've already explained it to you, but I like the examples I wrote down here, so I'm gonna say it. And I like this. This is why I like it, and this will help me explain it because you can just think about so much, and there's so many more ideas than a soft magic system where I feel like I always feel a little cheated. I know it's trying to build the story, and a story is always great. And that's why I love Lord of the Rings. It's one of the best stories of all time. But I feel a little cheated when I want more magic. I want to feel that more, but you can't. Like for example, you can only use telepathy. You can only use telepathy or control water or bring.
You really struggle saying telepathy.
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 No, telepathy.
Telepathy.
There you
Good.
go.
Thank
you for teaching me how to say telepathy.
Thank you for attending another episode of Guy and Jude Teach Matt the English language.
Telepathy or control water or bring doors to life within a certain... But you can only do it in a certain range or it's blocked by solid walls or running water. Or you can't use a magic within a 3 kilometer radius of birds. Which makes you really tired or hungry or you lose an arm every time you do it.
That's really cool.
Like those sort of ideas it just builds so much. Like having restrictions, it lets like limitations don't restrict an author, make them less creative. It makes them more creative in how they work it in. That's why I really like it. For example, Angel Mage. I fucking love Angel Mage.
What the fuck is that?
It's a book about how they use angels exist right in this world, and a caster can like trap an angel, basically create a totem, which is usually rings, and they basically that angel, if you have a ring of them, must do what you say for a certain amount of times. It's really it's a bit vague,
like a genie.
Yeah. Kind of like that, and they have to summon a new, and then the more powerful angels can choose where they want to, and then there's like the whole power. The evil person has like control of a really powerful one. But anyway, the point is like in Angel Mage, the people who use angel powers, there's a huge cost. They basically use the age of their life. So for example, there's really powerful casters who are like 20 to 30, but they look like they're like 70 to 80.
Nice.
Because they've been using their powers to help the society, and they'll die really young because I think it was like a thing where it's like every big power you do, you lose like 5 or 10 years. So when they're like, hey, person with the big mage ring, can you do that? And they're like, that'll literally kill me, but okay. I'm already 60. Like,
I'd prefer not to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that thing where they got to build like you can build the conflict on that because like, will they do it or not because of it's just a huge cost.
Yeah, okay. But people can still sacrifice themselves for things that they are that strongly believing in.
Oh yeah, exactly, and that's why it makes it like a big because there's sacrifice plays and you can do big things and stuff like that.
Scary.
And I really like about this. Just side note, I really like about this world. Each angel, like even if it's a tiny angel, you might summon upon the power of a small angel, less powerful angel, because it has a very specific thing it can do.
Okay.
Like big angels have very wide things they can do. I'm in charge of this whole area, but this angel could be like, I'm in charge of beetles. So you gotta if you need to do something with a beetle, you contact the small angel.
I
so
need
they
to do
have
some
like really
beetle
fun.
recon.
Beetle recon, exactly. That sort of thing. But yeah.
Nice.
What do you...
does?
I think I've been talking for a while. You go, guys.
No. My main point is I was going to discuss an interesting thing for me with hard and soft magic systems is how they're used in RPGs and are given to players as tools. So role-playing games and tabletop. I've got a couple of examples. So one of the classic ones that we play a lot of is Dungeons and Dragons, which I think is very interesting in a tool sense because quite often the spells aren't necessarily they'll fall into one or two categories. It's damage dealing or utility. Utility spells are quite often very interesting to me in the fact of they sort of do a thing, but they don't really solve a problem. So for example, Mage Hand. Mage Hand's a spell which allows you to conjure a small hand. It can only lift a certain amount, but it can pick stuff up and move it around. So, for example, you could use it to distract a guard, or a previous time that I've used it to pick up some sand and throw it in the eyes of an enemy who was one of my friends was fighting. So it's the interesting thing for me on that hard magic system is that it's much more about giving tools, because and again, most hard magic systems are like this, but it also becomes very interesting when looking at that. Again, looking at costs and stuff like that, how utilitarian that all becomes. Because one of the spells that is very often needed, some spells will consume components or costs that they have, but other ones will just need them. One of the classic ones is a spell which identifies magic items and tells you their abilities. So usually when some players will start a campaign, if they're using a bit of metagaming, it's basically a speedrun to go find a pearl. Because that's the material cost for it, which kind of sucks. And sometimes it's just because they have the spell, but it's very interesting how utilitarian it makes it. Another one is there's a spell that revives people if they've only been dead for 10 minutes. And so it's essentially a thing of, you need 500 gold worth of diamonds? 300 gold? How much is it?
Oh, Revivify is 1 minute, by the way.
1 minute, 300 gold worth of diamonds. Yeah. So it's like a thing of, you have to find someone who has diamonds, you need to contact them, and you need to go back to them every time a person dies.
I know this pain because I've done it.
I know, because you're a Revivify guy. But it's super interesting to me how the hard magic system and the like distinct costs of these things kind of make it almost like a shopping list, and how it, I wouldn't say make it like mundane, but it almost like adds a sort of domestic nature to the like, oh shit, I've got to go identify a magic item, let me go grab a pearl. Like, that's just kind of a fun thing for me. But the other thing that's interesting with RPG systems for me is how they deal with hard and soft magic systems. Giving a soft magic system to players at like a low level is obviously something that is kind of difficult, because if you have something that's too weak and too soft, it can be very easily abused. So one of the interesting things that I've come across, there's a RPG which I'm going to use as an example here called Monster of the Week. They have two types of magic. There's use magic, which is a move that players can make. And then there's also big magic. So use magic affects example. Just as a side note, they use harm in this system. Usually it's about 7 harm will kill someone. So effects. 1 harm, inflict harm, 1 harm. Do one thing beyond normal human limitations. That might be jump high, or rip a door off its hinges, or something like that. Bar a place or portal to a specific place. So they've got a very specific list of like what is on the use magic list. They then say, magic by its nature breaks the rules. The use magic move list is the possible effects for magic spells. Magics that go beyond these effects count as big magic. When a hunter, that uses hunters, it's a Monster of the Week thing, so think Supernatural, that sort of stuff. Or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's important to ask what they're trying to do. Ask the hunters how they cast the spell and what it looks like too. Then consider the scope of what they're doing, pick some extra requirements. And then there's a whole bunch of things for big magic, which includes things like spend a lot of time doing it. You need to experiment with it for a long time, which sometimes you don't have the ability to do. They need rare or weird ingredients. It will take people, like 7, 12, 13 people to cast it. You need to use magic as part of the ritual because only certain types of people in the world can do it. So finding the ways that soft magic systems and hard magic systems are explained to people through RPG systems, I think is a really fun way to study them, and also a really weird way to study the impacts of domesticating, like, what it means to have requirements. It's very much a thing where it becomes a big part of the strategy, and there's very much discussions about, like, okay, well, we're going to go into this dungeon. As a mind flayer, we're going to need to grab some rings of mind shielding. And then her abilities only work at night, so we'll need to wait a day or two to get that. But it becomes this thing, like in lots of series and TV shows, it's like these big dramatic moments. But in RPGs and stuff like that, when there's not like a massive time limit, it's just a job to do. It's sort of like, all right, well, here's our task list. Here's what we got to do. Let's plan this. Let's organize it.
Yeah, we need to go get spell potions. We need to go get some anti poison thing just in case. For
sure.
To be honest, I think that sort of system. It's obviously very that system usually exists more in a game than
Yeah, for sure, and it is definitely about making it ease of access for players.
Yeah, I was gonna say the big thing, which is like really interesting, I think, about like any sort of RPG game, whatever, is the fact that there needs to be game balance, and that's when you get the whole thing of like expensive spell components and everything, which is just an entirely different dimension to when you're like more story writing or script writing or whatever.
It doesn't need to be balanced in a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it does, but a different kind of balance.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is just always an interesting thing about games.
Yeah, but the limiting thing of how it's always you have to wait till way later in the game to get soft magic because it can just be that powerful sort of shows you how it's hard to do it if you don't have control over the people using it. Obviously, as a writer, you would, but in D&D, for example, despite the fact that there are written spells, you are restricted to spells that are within your casting thing, and they often require material components, or it uses a system of requirements, which is verbal, somatic, material. So verbal is you have to be able to speak, somatic is you have to be able to move your hands, and material is usually some sort of material component, or you can use a spellcasting tool unless it is a very specific type, like it costs money or something like that. It's hard to say out of actual game explanation.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I think that building worlds with both there's a situation for both, and I don't think you should ever say one. I'm just gonna say I know I said hard system. I prefer hard system, but like
no, for sure.
In different situations, I'd use a soft magic system than a hard magic system, and I think the way I think soft magic can work as long as you're very careful how you apply it. Personally,
I'm very much a supporter of soft magic systems. For example, Monster of the Week, one of the big things that it pushes is cooperative storytelling. So you create an area, and it's much more a thing of there's a monster about. I'm going to control it, but you guys need to do stuff. And there's parts where if you roll really well, you essentially get to dictate the scene for like a little bit, which is kind of interesting because it means that soft magic is much more applicable because everyone's involved in the like storytelling aspect rather than the playing aspect. So again, different applications even within RPGs and stuff like that is different for that.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me, at least from when it comes to an RPG sort of perspective, obviously it gets a bit more complicated and convoluted when you get into like higher levels of gameplay and whatever system you're playing. But I always see it more of a slight, almost rule of thumb of hard magic in the game is what the players have access to, and the soft magic is what the creator of the game or the people that built the world has access to.
Very true.
That is the D&D parties walking through the wilderness and they find this ancient archway with faint elven magic gathered around it. That's the soft magic that you have in the D&D world, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I always find like the author or someone could have access to level 12 spells or whatever, but players are never going to get that because it would just break the story.
Exactly.
It's also very funny, as just a final partial side note, how some systems will dictate. There's just a very good example of how D&D dictates why spell slots exist, because when you're a player, you have a requirement of having a spell slot to cast a spell. And it basically was because in previous ages, wizards could just create spells and just do stuff. They were fairly unlimited for their powers, provided they knew what they were doing and experimented with it. But it ended up with the max in D&D 5th edition is level 9, but they ended up with like level 12, 13 spells, which were like mind-bending, god-creating, like insanity. And eventually a goddess stepped in and was like, hey, chill.
Yeah.
And
I
it
think
got
it's
to a thing where she just slapped a cap on and was just like, okay, for normal spell casting, you can get to here. This is the most I will allow you to do.
It was something like the person cast a level 12 spell and tried to become the god of magic.
Yeah, it's a little bit
the
wild.
god of magic, and the god of magic went, "Fuck you."
Shut up. Yeah. So looking at that sort of stuff, it's also very fun in that sense of having a look at why hard magic systems are created in that way.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
it just
for
is
sure.
the way that magic works, but other times
Yeah.
it's just fun, especially in video games sometimes.
I think it comes with preference because as Jude has said, like soft magic systems more for building the story. Whereas hard magic systems is more for personally, it's like solving problems and
Making a situation understandable, I think, is how it should be said.
Yeah, and I also and understandable. I think hard magic systems, and there's obviously the different, but I think hard magic systems usually affect how the world is built more than they make like a more enticing world building. Whereas soft magic systems are more good story techniques and narrative tools. And personally, when I read a good story, yes, I like stories and I read stories and I love them, but the world building is so important to my experience, and I love a world like.
Well, we're doing a fucking podcast about it, so I'd hope
Exactly.
so.
Exactly. This is like how much I love world building more than I love stories. And like I read books, and I'm like, how that happened, and I'm thinking ahead of time. How will they defeat the ultimate boss? I'm wondering, will they use that technique? Will they use this? I'm like brainstorming myself, and I'm not in the story, but I'm brainstorming because I can see how you use the powers. I can see what techniques they have, what resources they have, what they could do, and I'm trying to understand the story. And as it plays out, I can kind of like understand it with them. And I think that's why I like hard magic systems, especially I really like how magic systems when you introduce new things, but they expand of course that exists, and that's my favorite stuff. Where I think the Mortal Instruments series, they introduced in like in the Dark Artifacts, I think that's what it's called. It was Lady Midnight, I believe. They introduced shadow markets, which is basically a market that's kind of like hidden from the world for dark world downworlders. I'm not going to get into it by now, but it was just it was a very natural expansion for what the downworlders, because they've had to hide from humanity all their life. So having their own marketplace where only they get to rule and they're in charge of this kind of small community just makes so much sense in that kind of sense, because for centuries they've been hidden from the world and had to do this. So that exists there, and they sell things and they try to work for their love. It just makes so much sense. It doesn't disbelief. It goes, oh, and now there's angel. Like, no, there are angels in the world, but doesn't.
I would argue though that I personally appreciate the understanding and wanting to be along with it, but quite often what I personally enjoy is comedic. So comedic, one of the key points of comedy is not understanding and having something come out of left field, which soft magic is fucking perfect for. Merlin constantly does it, where it's not necessarily the fact that the hero has powers, but the soft magic of the enemies. There's the most recent episode I watched was the one with the goblin. The goblin takes over Merlin's mentor and basically just causes fucking havoc. He starts making people fart. He starts arm wrestling people. He's doing all sorts of fun shit, and that's enjoyable to me in a thematic sense. I don't particularly I'm worried about what Merlin's going to do because I understand his limitations, but soft magic can still be implemented in a way that is important. Again, goes back to the point. Heroes are important to understand, and villains are important to keep chaotic. Sometimes.
Yeah.
There's lucidities to those rules, we were aware.
Yeah. What do you think, Jude?
Well, I am very well. I mean, I was gonna finish with asking you guys personal preference, but I think you've both just answered that question without me asking it. So,
sorry, we've ruined your ending.
No, it's jolly chill. Just means I get to spiel. I think me personally, I generally prefer soft magic systems, but for very different reasons to go.
No.
All of my favorite worlds, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not a big fan of things that have. I'm not necessarily a big Magic fan. I like all of the nitty gritty, medieval, not quite dark fantasy because that's like the spooky magics. But those sort of more realism focused, historical things, whatever you want to call them, things that are less sort of magic is a big thing. And because of that, go figure, that means that there's a lot of soft magic systems where I'm just really not a fan of because it's like you've not implemented this very well and it's dumb.
Yeah.
But the ones where it's more, the magic is just there as like a subtle little bit of flavoring that just adds more to the world is more my sort of thing. So go figure, because we can just use as an example that one of you knows about, and listeners mostly know about Lord of the Rings.
I know about Lord
I thought you were going to go Game of Thrones.
I've looked at all the memes.
No. Yeah, shut up. In the way that world is, that's not a great example of a more realism-focused world, but it is more focused on the grittiness of everything. It is less focused on like everyone being magic users and learning spells and stuff. Just my personal preference.
No.
But I do appreciate a good hard magic system because, like Matt said, it is fun to be like, here are the limitations and stuff.
Yeah, I think we just, and this is why this podcast kind of works. We all have a different kind of opinion. We all have a different kind of taste. I prefer systems like, if you look at, and I'm going to say it again, Trudy Canavan, look her up. She's great. She has amazing works, and I love all her books, literally everyone. But her system, her magic is the main focus. I think nearly, not all of them, but nearly all perspectives in her books are from magic users. And her magic doesn't work on spells. Like, in every book it's different, but it usually works on, you can either generate a amount of magic you can either hold an amount of magic within you, and each person has a different amount they can hold, or you have there's magic in the world, and it's like, it depends where you are, how much magic like spread out or something. And different magicians' strength will be their range, so they can pick up different ranges. And I love that kind of concept, because there was more powerful magicians would have, for example, in cities where magic is used for technology to power machines, there's a lot less magic in the city, so they'll literally pay magicians to go out to the country where there's more magic, grab magic and bring it back to the city. It's that kind of thing. So it's
cool.
Yeah, it's that kind of world, how it's built into it, how the city has no magic, and there's actually there's laws in place, like the emperor put in a law that said you can't use magic within the city because it could harm someone, because there's a flying machine coming in that uses magic. If that flying machine runs out of magic because you drained it from that place, you caused it to crash technically.
That's kind of fun. I like that.
And they use that later on. They use it, like the main guy Tyan, who's really powerful. He actually I believe, I can't remember where it is, but I believe he either thinks about it or does it. I can't remember either one. I haven't read it in a bit of a while. I read the fourth one, not the first one. But he drains all the magic away from a flying machine, so it falls out of the ground, so they stop following him.
Nice.
So he's kind of cushions him, but he knows the guy's got some magic, so he can cushion his fall. But he makes the whole machine fall out of the sky, so it doesn't follow him.
As I was getting to a roundabout way with my D&D discussion, I think that the implications of a set magic system is always interesting to explore in terms of how it makes magic into a shopping list or magic into the rules around it. Skyrim's always funny because you can just go around just screaming in the city and the guard's like, please, shut the fuck up. Holy shit. Dude, we get it. You saved the city. Just shut up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's always a bit of extra fun to explore.
Let me guess, somebody stole your sweet roll.
But
Thank you, guy.
Actually,
I was waiting for that.
I actually prefer the cricket sounds, but yeah.
Yeah, fair. You can put some in. You can cut.
No, do not put some in.
Yes.
Don't you dare.
Yes.
What do you mean put some in? They're already there.
They were there. I have my pet cricket
I
Jeremy
have
here.
a pet cricket. No.
Same brain.
Shit. Lemony cricket?
No, I said Jeremy.
Lemony or Lemony cricket?
Lemony.
Is the guy?
How long has it been since you've read a series of unfortunate events? It's Lemony.
Jiminy cricket.
I thought you were talking about Lemony Snicket.
No, Jiminy
I thought you were making a Lemony Snicket
Jiminy
joke.
Cricket.
No, I was making a Lemony Snicket from
What the
Pinocchio
fuck, dude?
joke.
You got all of them wrong. I was giving you a way. I was giving you a way out.
It's a series of unfortunate events.
Because Lemony Snicket. It's close enough. I thought that was a
cricket.
Lemony Snicket.
Jiminy
Lemony
Cricket.
Cricket. I thought you were making a pun.
No, this Jiminy Cricket.
No, you were just making a Disney reference. Cool.
Yeah.
I thought you were being clever and doing some word witch shit.
No. Me being
No!
That's
become painful
Matt being
to me.
clever. What?
How dare we suggest such a heinous act?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also I'd like to comment on them. Just a small comment on the Harry Potter. I think Harry Potter personally is really good, and I think they do a lot of good things. But J.K. Rowling does a little bit too much of there's a spell for that, or now there's a new thing that I haven't talked about at all. And I know that's kind of like when you're going through school, you kind of introduce new things, and I get that in high school. But like they things that like they just introduce. But the one thing she does really well is the international stuff. Like, of course, there's a Quidditch World Cup, and of course, there's other schools that teach magic. Of course, not just Hogwarts, right? I think she does that really well. Like how she implements the fourth year and Trials Tournament really good.
Everything else garbage.
Well, I really hate Avada Kedavra because it's a killing curse really restricts battles. Like the fifth, if you look at the battle in the Ministry of Magic in the fifth book is amazing. That's bonkers. The very end of the book, I know it's not supposed to be. I know it represents stuff, but like it's just them casting Avada Kedavra again and again and again. All the good people use really cool spells, and all the bad people just go Avada Kedavra, Avada Kedavra. Because why wouldn't you? It's a gun. It's just a gun.
Have you seen a highway chase? The guy who's running away has got a gun, and everyone else has got like spikes and nets and shit. Like, welcome to the real world, baby.
It's a fair point. No, I also it's like at least from the Harry Potter books that I've read, which admittedly isn't all of them. It is.
What?
I do find it
What?
funny. I haven't read all of them.
What?
You can't chastise Guy for not seeing Lord of the Rings if you haven't read Harry Potter.
I've read most of them. I just haven't read a couple.
I've read them.
That's
I've
kinda
watched
worse,
a
to
couple
be
of the
honest.
Lord of the Rings movies.
Okay.
I
That's
watched
kinda
all the
worse. How
Hobbit.
could you stop? That's what I don't get. Which ones have you read?
Because I just wasn't interested anymore. Like I liked them. I just was. There was other things I wanted to read.
I'll peg you.
Okay. No, but I just very much I found it very funny how it was like there's all these cool spells they could be using, but sometimes Book Harry acts like the only spell he knows is Expelliarmus.
It's so good.
Expelliarmus or
And
Stupefy. He has
occasionally
two spells.
occasionally Spirit Animal.
Stupefy, Expelliarmus, Stupefy. It's just like, come on, Harry. There's
I also
so many other
like
spells.
that there's not that much explanation for why he's the best wizard ever. Like, yeah, he was protected by his mother love. Does that mean that he's a good wizard? Like,
He's
yeah,
not. He's
he is.
shit. He's only good at Defense Against Dark Arts. He's really pretty bad at most
No,
other
but he's
things.
also really good at oh my fucking god, I forget the name of Harry Potter spells. Wizard spirit animal.
Oh,
Expecto
Patronus.
Patronum.
Yeah, the Patronus. Like his Patronus
Well,
is
that's
really
because he gets
strong.
private tutoring to do that.
That's fair. He does also have the God Wizard kind of giving him home lessons. That's cool.
Yeah, he gets like lessons from all these tutors. Like that's
Yeah.
So I remember he
Harry-
like he's not that good. He's like average in his class, like maybe slightly above average, and he
Well,
doesn't.
he's apparently pretty good at potions.
Not really. He's he's above
It's
average.
a
I think.
joke about the fifth.
Yeah.
It's a joke about the Half-Blood Prince, my dude.
Oh, okay.
I got it, guy.
Good. Hey, Jude got it.
Jeez,
Fuck you,
jeez,
Matt.
Matt. Who's the disappointment now, Matt?
Sorry, but no, it's like it's interesting though. I think
So I just saw a guy.
what's guy
Like,
doing? Oh my god,
I'm like a bad unicorn.
guy
You
has a
wanna You want to
peg.
drink my juice?
Guy has a peg on his nose.
I'm literally tearing up. I don't know why this is causing me to cry.
He's got a peg on his nose, and
Ow,
we
that
don't
really
know
hurt.
why.
no, it was. I found it very funny as Matt was talking. I think you like pinched yourself with the peg by mistake,
did,
guy, because I
yes.
just saw you like jump.
It
No,
is
but like-
an ongoing theme of this fucking series where when one of us is talking, the other two are doing some dumb shit, Mr. Sandwich.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
Was it a
pretty
good
much.
sandwich?
It
What
was
the
a
fuck
great
was what was
sandwich.
in the sandwich?
Lettuce, ham.
Hey,
mayonnaise.
pause. Why'd you put lettuce in a podcast sandwich? That just occurred to me.
I didn't
Ham's
have
a
it yet. It's
ham-
soft lettuce.
What the fuck? Dude, you need better lettuce.
You know, iceberg
That
lettuce
li-
isn't the only type of lettuce, right?
Yeah, but the good lettuce is crisp.
like the soft Lego. It's like, sure, it's a thing,
Cursed,
but like,
cursed.
Oh god.
And and also you said there's more than this hard lettuce. You showed us a head of lettuce. I know cos lettuce and stuff like that is soft, but you showed us a fucking head of lettuce.
it's a fair point. You did.
It's a head of, that's a, what is that?
Yeah,
if not
it's
an iceberg.
it is cruciferous lettuce. It's
I fucking...
Why is it soft? Have you left it out of the
Oh
fridge
no, it's
too long?
not soft. I just trying to.
He's just trying to make excuses
Trying to
like the
make
criminal he is.
What else was in the sandwich, Matt?
I said ham and mayonnaise.
Ham,
Oh, okay,
mayonnaise,
I didn't-
lettuce. That's a
I didn't hit
reasonable
that part.
sandwich. White bread?
I don't have white bread. Of course not. Multigrain.
Good. Otherwise you get indigestion. Fucking hate white bread.
No. Back to Harry Potter. Like I'll say, J.K. Rowling
I mean,
does really
I don't
good
mind
world
white
building.
bread, but I don't eat that much of it, so like,
I get really bad indigestion if I ever have any white bread or any like
I think it just
like
tastes,
non
I feel like it just tastes bad.
like anything of the ilk of white bread that is like a bread or a pastry and stuff like that. If I eat it too quick, then I will just die. If you ever see me quietly at an event where I'm having like the side pieces, like the little fucking sandwiches with like chicken and mayo in them, and I just quietly walk off to the toilet for 20 minutes, I'm having indigestion and dying.
Good to know. Oh my god.
I'll bear that in mind.
I did that at our year 12 after the graduation ceremony. I did that. I walked off into when we were at the arts center, and I walked off to the toilet.
yeah, I actually, my mind literally went to that event. If
I
I'm
did
honest,
that.
when you started,
Exactly
yeah.
what I did. I
Anyway,
live a
Harry
cursed
Potter.
Oh.
life.
Any excuse to him to not admit he was crying post grad. God.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm so sad to leave school.
Harry
I
Potter.
love that school so much.
No.
Fuck Harry Potter. I'm talking about white bread now. Even though you don't have white bread.
I don't even have it.
So tell us about
Harry Potter, tell us.
No. So the world building is really good. J.K. Rowling does really good world building. That's why I like the world building. But she kind of fucks up in some cases in the magic building. Kind of affects her story, and I think that's interesting. How you can use your magic. You need to be careful when you make a magic system, hard or soft, because you might hurt yourself in your creativity, how creative you can be, because characters will do illogical things instead of use their spells they can use, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if you go back to good old Brandon's first law about directly proportional, author's ability to solve conflict with the magic should be directly proportional to how well the reader understands the magic. You could make the argument with the magic system in Harry Potter that because magic is used to solve literally every single issue and conflict and tension in the entire series, you could make the argument that it should be much better understood than it is, but, you know.
I mean, it depends, because magic in some ways is used, but it's often they think their way out of a solution more than I cast a spell and it fixes a solution. It's like, for example, Triwizard Tournament, he uses a broom, and yes, he uses a spell to cast his broom, and broom's magic, but it's his thinking about using his talent as a broom more than I cast a spell and I win, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
but
But
that's
there's
kind
more
of
like
what it
the
means
love,
by
like the
using the
love
magic.
shit. No one understand what the fuck love like. Even Harry, no one knew what the fuck was Harry on until at the end of that book.
Which
Then
book?
the last book of Harry Potter
Oh, right, yeah.
is a bit ambiguous in the last two chapters.
Yeah, it got a little weird.
It gets a little strange.
Why the fuck are they at platform 9 3/4?
I don't fucking know.
Who knows?
Why is
sure there's-
Dumbledore there?
I'm sure there's an explanation. Because he died.
Yeah, but why is he there?
Well, who the fuck else would be there? His fucking parents?
What is
They
it?
died.
What is it again? Albus Severus Potter.
What a fucking stupid name.
what's the kid's
So dumb.
name?
Yeah, it is.
Is that it? Yeah, Albus
That is,
Severus
yeah,
Potter.
100% correct.
What?
Well, there's other. What
10
are the
out
other
of 10.
stupid names? There are other stupid names. What are Harry's,
This
Harry
is going off on a fucking tangent.
Potter's kids' names?
This is what happens when we don't have a script, guys. This is what happens when we don't have a script.
James Sirius Potter, Lily
God.
Luna Potter,
Oh,
and
God.
Albus Severus Potter.
Wait, Luna didn't die though. Why
No,
would they
I know,
just
they
name it
just
after
really,
their
they
friend?
just really liked it. Hang on, I'm gonna Google.
Luna's not dead. They just named it after their friend.
Named in honor of her late paternal grandmother. Wait, no, what? And her her middle name comes from the parents' good friend, Luna Lovegood. It's
Yeah.
also possible that Luna is Lily's godmother.
Uh.
So she's just cool. I mean, I agree, Luna's cool as fuck, but
Luna is sick.
Don't you
Yeah,
only get
yeah.
godparents if you get baptized?
Well, we all know that it happens in Britain, and so Jesus could be a wizard.
That hasn't never. I've actually been looking into the Wizarding world. That's never been confirmed or denied.
Don't talk about it.
The Christ has never been confirmed or denied.
Christ has never been
Righty,
confirmed
so-
as canon
Hello.
in the
No,
universe.
Christ exists, but he's never confirmed to be a wizard.
Guys, we've got to the intro. Welcome to episode 19 of Living by the Law.
Look at
This is
episode
the Harry
19,
Potter
sorry.
episode.
It's a Harry Potter
Okay,
episode.
can us in?
So
See, that's a really good running bit for us, but it doesn't make sense for the audience. We
That's
have
a
to
good-
count in before when we do the time in every episode, but Jude cuts it out, obviously.
And Jude is the slowest counter in the world.
It's because of lag.
It's
because
also
you
so
guys are
funny, though.
really bad at getting in sync with my
Well,
count.
also
the two
because
of
we
you
used to
together.
record on Discord, and it was an absolute shit first because that
Yeah.
program has so
Yeah.
much lag. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Um, Anywho, let us finish up for the day because we've ranted for a while now.
Awesome. Do you have a way to finish this up?
No, that was it really. Just asking you guys what your favorite was out of hard or soft.
One hard, two soft.
I love it hard.
Hey,
But
what is your taco preference?
hard. Why
Jude.
would you want a soft
Jude.
taco? That's a wrap.
Hey, shush, Jude.
I'm actually hard pressed to answer that.
Really?
A lot of the time, it depends. Honestly, it depends. Because there's a lot of the time where I'm like, yeah, these hard tacos are good. But then you just get those times when you have a hard taco and it just fucking breaks everywhere and nothing works. It's like, why am I eating this shit? Just give me a soft one.
Correct.
And it's
We
so
went
much
into this
better.
way further than I
That's
thought we
why.
were going.
That's why I prefer the ultimate method, which is wrapping a hard one in a soft one, just like how Magic System should be.
You're a fucking monster.
But that way I
You're
can
an
have the
actual-
hard taco
you're an
crunch
a-
without
no,
cutting
you're
my
an
mouth on the
actual
hard
fucking
taco.
monster. You're an actual fucking monster.
But it's so good.
Taco
And
Tuesday
also
in
it
your
works
house
in
is a
Magic
fucking
Systems. You
massacre.
wrap a hard one in a soft one.
Yeah, I get that. That's good. Not your fucking tacos, though.
The tacos are delicious.
I
A
hate it.
soft taco is a wrap. A hard taco is a taco.
So,
Fight me.
so guys like Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Bits
I'm a
of
firm
both.
Magic System.
So
Squishy Magic
I'm.
System.
If anyone, just as a final closing note, if you want to think the spectrum
swings
of hard
both
to
ways.
soft Magic System, if you've got soft on one end of the spectrum, you've got Lord of the Rings. On the far hard end of the spectrum, you've got Last Airbender, Full Metal Alchemist, and then in the direct center, you've kind of got Harry Potter, just as a kind of general thing to bear in mind. So guys, Harry Potter.
Yes.
He's a hardy soft. Jude's very soft man.
I have my legs split
and
across the
I'm-
entire spectrum.
I'm solid hard at all times.
Matt is the hardest,
the hardest boy.
At all times.
except on the inside.
about that. We talked about this last week. We had to get that joke in somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if that is the end of the episode, we're talking about the most important topic, of course, tacos. You guys should check us out at Living by the Law on Facebook and Twitter. We post when the episodes come out, so you can be sure to be able to get the episodes ASAP.
I've finally been given
we're starting
control
to do
of
it
the-
now. We're posting more of interaction in posts. So I'm trying to post maybe some meme posts or some just questioning posts, trying to get your outlook. And maybe later, if we get enough support, we can do an episode talking about some questions we get from viewers and talking about their perspectives and like discussing, is your perspective right in our opinion?
We will criticize the shit out of you. Yeah, if you
We will-
want... I've finally been given full control of the Twitter account, so if you want some fucking dank memes, I'll also be posting some little sound clips with
You mean
some
finally
episodes and stuff.
accepted full control?
been accepted.
We gave it to you.
if you have Twitter, go follow us at Living by the Law. It's about to fucking go
It's
off.
about to pop off.
It's about to pop off, like literally. Additionally, you can message to us at. Can you DM on Twitter? Yeah?
Yes, you can.
Okay, DM us on Twitter or
DM on Facebook. DM on Facebook because we use Messenger as our main communication
Yeah.
platform, so we'll be able to get to you much quicker. You can DM us or email us on any other thing. It's just going to take us a bit longer.
If you want to email us, it's at Living by the Law. By
At
the way,
livingbythelaw@gmail.com.
at gmail.com. Exactly. Simple. And if you enjoyed this podcast or enjoying anything we're putting out, just appreciate anything we're doing.
Leave a fucking review on iTunes. Really. Hang on. Hang on. You hear that? You hear?
You hear the knocking?
You want to come out, idiots? Yeah, you can come out when you review our fucking podcast. Sorry, I've got some viewers stuck in the cupboard over there.
Yeah, so we will put you in the cupboard if you watch. I think it's more than 5 episodes. If you've watched and have reviews on iTunes, we put you in the cupboard.
Pay the piper in
Pay
your
the piper.
literal digital 5 seconds on iTunes or wherever the hell you want to.
Chuck us a 5-star review on iTunes. We really appreciate it. It helps us feel good about what we're doing, and we keep coming to you guys.
Shut up.
And let us know if you like this format of podcast, or if you look at it from a writing perspective, because I'm happy to do more of these sort of looks at things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We can
do
talk
plenty more
less
sharing
about
episodes.
a single world and more about a general idea.
We got to keep this podcast going somehow, otherwise we're going to end up on fanfiction.net by the end of this thing.
I mean,
So,
I was already
episode-
looking at that for next
Episode
but-
105. Today we're going to talk about Twilight and how the magic powers of Jacob's abs in particular.
Well,
Hey,
this is
I mean-
episode 3 of Twilight.
No, this is episode 43 of Twilight. What do you mean?
Christ. Oh god, things are going to go downhill in 30
I
episodes
might lose
time.
my
We're looking
mind.
into the future. We've already done 18 of these things. This is crazy.
Yeah, having a good time.
Right,
doing
let's
it.
fucking wrap this up, dude. We've been.
We've got to go.
yeah.
See you
Alrighty.
later, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
And good night. Night there.
Goodbye. Well, you didn't do your thing. We do one of
Jude,
each.
come on, Jude.
Say goodnight
Jude.
to the. How will they sleep at night?
They can't
Tuck
sleep
them
now.
in. Tuck them into their fantasy bed.
Tuck him in and put him to bed. Give him a little kiss. Little kiss.
Jude, give them a fantasy kiss. It's fine. That's
Thank you for listening to Living by the Law. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes and tell your friends. The link is in the description, and thank you in advance. Also, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Living by the Law to keep updated on all the latest about our podcast. We have been, and always will be, living by the law. Thank you for your company,